So what's involved in exercising successfully with multiple sclerosis? Don't turn away, because I'm going to answer that question starting right now. Howdy! Thanks for learning about MS with me, Boster. In this video, I wanted to discuss a super important topic in multiple sclerosis: exercise. Any of you that are familiar with my channel know that I talk about being 5 for 5 in your fight against MS. 5 for 5 means there's 5 things that I want you to be doing on a constant basis. And one of those 5 is exercise as part of your lifestyle. It's super duper important. In this video, I want to dive into the reasons behind our need for exercise with MS, the kind of mentality that we need to be successful exercising with MS. I want to share with you some pro tips on how to plan out an exercise regimen and how to stay with it. If you would like to up your game by exercising as part of your lifestyle, then stay tuned and let's jump in. Exercise is a really powerful tool in combating multiple sclerosis. People impacted by MS that exercise, they have less depression, they have less anxiety, they have less cognitive fatigue and cognitive impairment. They have less fatigue. Allow me to repeat. People with MS who exercise are less tired. That's a really big deal. They also have better balance. They fall less often. They can walk farther. And very importantly, they're less disabled at the end of their life compared to if they didn't exercise. There's a lot more to exercise than that. Exercise helps maintain brain volume. Keep in mind that in the setting of MS, you can have an accelerated brain volume loss or brain shrinkage. So doing something to slow that down is a really good idea, and exercise fits the bill. Exercise protects you or buttresses you against a future attack. Think about this thought experiment. First, we clone you. Okay, now there's 2 of you. We give one of you chocolate cake and days of our lives. We give the other one an elliptical and carrots. Now we get back together in a few years, and we have an out-of-shape, deconditioned you, and we have an in-shape Greek god you, all right? Now, both of you experience an attack of left leg weakness. The in-shape you is limping. The out-of-shape, deconditioned you is in a wheelchair. Now, I'm not going to insult you and say, which one do you want to be? It's a rhetorical question. My point here is exercise is really good for you, and it's super duper important if you have MS. But wait, there's more. That stated, it's not easy to exercise with MS. On the contrary, it can actually be super hard. And so this creates quite a paradox. Hence the reason I'm making this video to help you unravel. How do you exercise successfully? Because it's so important when MS makes it rather challenging to exercise. Let's address that next. So what about MS makes it challenging to exercise? Well, first of all, MS is variable. On one day, you can have significant fatigue or spasticity, or you could have really poor balance or double vision, and the next day you might not. And so that's a variability that makes planning and executing exercise challenging, because one day you're up for it and the next day you really might not be able to do it. Many of the things that occur in the setting of multiple sclerosis, weakness, numbness, poor balance, loss of understanding of where your limbs are in space, difficulty with depth perception, all of these things can impact your ability to walk across the room comfortably, let alone do some form of intense exercise. People impacted by MS can develop motor fatigue over the course of the day. So they may be okay motorically moving and doing things in the morning and not able to do them in the afternoon. If they get overheated, they may become weak. And if they get really cold, they may become spastic. Obviously, there are a host of things that can make exercise challenging. And that's a fact, but it's unfortunately a fact that we have to recognize and then work around and with. So how do we do that? Just before we move on, do me a favor. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps out the algorithm and lets YouTube know that you like what I'm doing. In my opinion, there are 4 aspects of fitness that we want to be considering when we plan out exercise. The first is cardiovascular endurance, so heart and lungs. And this is super important for your cardiovascular fitness and health. And being in shape from a cardiovascular standpoint improves your life expectancy, and it has been shown to decrease disability accumulation in the setting of MS. So that's one of the 4. The second is flexibility, so limb flexibility. Many people impacted by MS have significant spasticity. I have a lot of videos on this channel about spasticity, and I'll throw a link up above in case you want to check out a playlist on the topic. Stretching is a very, very key element, and flexibility is an important element to cultivate to combat spasticity. Number 3 is core strength. So strengthening your core, your abs, your obliques, your erector spinae, your glutes, your upper back. All of these things are really, really important for posture, for walking correctly, for a myriad of things. And so the third element is core strengthening. And the fourth element is balance. So actively working on balance, seated, standing, walking, one limb, all kinds of stuff. So those are the 4 elements that you want to be thinking about: cardiovascular endurance, flexibility, core strengthening, and balance. Let's talk for a minute about how often we should be working out with MS, how intense we should be working out, for how long, etc. What we need to do emotionally and mentally, we have to fit exercise into our lifestyle as opposed to fitting our lifestyle into our exercise. Don't set a plan of becoming a competitive mixed martial artist or climbing one peak in every continent. Instead, I would start with a goal of presenteeism. I would find an exercise that you don't hate, and I would commit to doing it twice a week. In my mind, if you put on your Lululemon and your awesome sneakers and you get on your treadmill, whatever happens next, you get full credit. The fact that you were present and showed up to exercise is really the aspect that I want to cultivate. I want to get you in the habit of getting on that elliptical or participating in exercise, in this example, twice a week. How much time you spend is not my primary important goal. I know that if you put on the Lululemon and you put on your sneakers and you stand on the treadmill, you're probably going to turn it on. You're probably going to walk for a few minutes. And if I can get you in the habit of constantly going back and revisiting that, we're going to do really, really well long term. I also want to address the amount of time. Many of us set, dare I say, unrealistic goals, both in how often we can work out and how long we can work out. And I'd like to share a story of a gentleman, and he was in his 70s, and he was sitting next to his wife in clinic, and he was kind of bragging a little bit about all the exercise that he'd been doing. And I said, "That's fantastic. Tell me more about it." And he said,
"Well, I can go to our gym for 3 hours and work out the whole time."
And he was very proud of himself. And his wife, backhand, slapped him in the chest and said,
"And then what happens?"
And then he kind of shrugged and he says,
"Well, then I may be in bed for 2 or 3 days."
True story. He was able to exercise for 3 hours in the gym. And then he paid what I call the devil's price, and he was stuck in bed because he had overdone it. We discussed instead an alternative plan of going to the gym every other day for half an hour. And he was able to go to the gym for half an hour and fully have a normal next day with no limitations, no time in bed. And so gaming out how often you go and how intense you go is really, really relevant. Let's use the treadmill as an example. If you have a treadmill and you're going to try to use the treadmill for exercise, I think a realistic goal after we get past the presenteeism, you show up twice a week, let's say, is that you start off with something that you know you can do. If you know you can do 5 minutes, that's what I want you to start with. Not 10, not 15, just 5. Do the 5 minutes and get off, and get in the habit twice a week of getting on for 5 minutes and getting off. When you've convinced yourself that you can do 5 minutes all the time and it's no big deal, I want you to go to 6. Not 10, not 15, 6. We need to very slowly and methodically build up our functional reserves and our athletic reserves. Super important pro tip. So what kind of exercises are the best? Well, I don't think that there's a best exercise. The reality is the best exercise is probably the one that you don't hate. So if you can't stand lifting weights, please don't do that. If you hate the idea of jogging, then let's find something different. But if we're thinking in generalities, or if we're just kind of brainstorming together, one area of fantastic success is in the water. Water is a near magical environment for exercising with MS. Let's talk about why. If you're in the water and your left leg is weak, you weigh less. And you may be able to walk with better gait mechanics in the water with that weak left leg, whereas you can't do that on land. If you are unsteady on your feet and you fall to the left, the water pushes back to the right. If you get overheated very easily, in the water, it wicks the heat away from you by convection and helps you manage heat sensitivity. Spasticity, which can really limit exercise, is less pronounced in the setting of the water. If you are unable to stand up on your own, even in the water, throw a life jacket on and now you're buoyant and now you can be upright. There are a host of things that you can do in the water. If you know how to swim, swim. You can literally put on a life jacket and bring a walker in the shallow end and you can walk laps. There's all kinds of really cool exercises like water Zumba classes, water aerobics classes. Water is a great place to exercise if you have MS, so that's one consideration. Where do you find a place to exercise? If you're not fortunate enough to have your own pool, I would look for a local YMCA or local community center. Another great form of exercise with multiple sclerosis is walking. If you are ambulatory, walking is a great exercise and has a lot of benefits. First of all, it's very applicable to the real world. It's something that you can do with no cost. You can do it with a friend or by yourself or with a dog, let's say. It can be done with an ankle-foot orthosis or with a cane or with a walker. It can be done with 2 canes or holding on to a loved one. And you pick the time you do it and you pick the distance. I have a friend named Dom. He's got an awesome YouTube channel called The MS Guide. I'll throw a link up above if I can figure out how to do that. I bring Dom up because Dom does a lot of walking. And one of his pro tips that he brought up recently was using 2 poles while walking and how important it was to have bilateral assistance. I think exercises like yoga and exercises like Pilates are excellent for multiple sclerosis. They can be done whether you are super athletic and can balance on one foot. They can be done if you have significant motoric difficulties and you use a wheelchair for mobility. There's a lot of different applications, and I think when you consider flexibility and core strength, those 2 exercises are really, really good at that.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
If you'd like to learn more about exercising with MS and upping your game, click the video that's on your screen right now. My name's Aaron Boster, and thank you for learning about MS with me. Until my next video or my next live stream, or even better yet, the next time I see you at the Boster Center for MS, be safe and take care.